Welcome to Full Throttle Talk, the podcast where horsepower meets conversation. From supercars to classic legends, high revving tech to motorsport mayhem, we cover it all. Straight from the driver's seat, whether you're a gearhead or racer or just love the thrill of the open road, you're in the right place. Buckle up, hit the gas, and let's go full throttle into today's episode. Welcome back. It's Tim Harris, and this, of course, is your favorite weekly automotive nerd out podcast. And this is, of course, Full Throttle Talk. And as always, I'm going to welcome my co-host to today's podcast. It is Paul Kramer from Auto Kennel. It's Casey Parkin. And, of course, it's Dave Van Epson. Dave, we've decided to muzzle him today because he is driving from one thing to another, and he was kind enough to join us. And he is unfortunately on his mobile phone in his car. So if you're on YouTube, you could see that he's tortured because he wants to participate, but we muted him because the audio was so bad. So let's just... Well, all right, let's just jump right to it, guys. What's the coolest thing that happened in your automotive lives since our last podcast? Casey, let's start with you.
So I think I've mentioned it on here before, but one of my COVID projects was I restored a 1967 Vespa Super, 150 Super. My wife and I always wanted one of those. Loved them. The allure of riding around Italy in a Vespa would be about the coolest thing in the world. One thing we were never a big fan of was two-stroke motors. So I found a guy in England that builds EV conversions for Vespas, and we stuffed an EV conversion in the Vespa, which is about an equivalent of about a 100cc motor. Goes about, if you really peg it when the battery's fully charged, about 60 miles an hour, which is way too fast on a Vespa. And if you have a controlled throttle, actually, as I'm putting more and more kilometers on the Vespa, it's getting larger range, which is awesome. So this weekend, I took it out for 2 spins, did about 25 miles on it, which is not a lot for a lot of people that ride motorcycles and those sorts of things, but we keep it kind of close to home. There's a really cool lake nearby the house that we ride around the lake and just have a blast about. That was my slow car slow. Also got to spend a bit of time in a client's 968 Clubsport, which is an absolutely awesome car. I'll see if I can switch the picture here on my background. But it's a really great car. I'm a big fan of them. Always been a big fan of 968s. I owned one for about a couple of years. Clubsport's a different animal altogether. And this is a great car that sometime I'll have to dive deeper into.
Those cars are fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah, and actually, Casey, Club Sport question, because when I bought my 944 Turbo S, I put a dress on. I was very seriously considering a 968 Club Sport, and actually, my friend Jeff Smith up in Oregon, if you know him, he kind of talked me off the ledge because he said, "Hey, you're going to want something for rallies where you want air conditioning and not the lollipop seats and all the other crap. But the value is having all the stuff gutted from them and as close to a race car. And at the end of the day, what you want is not far off from a 968 MO30, which is the sports suspension. Is that true? Have you owning a 968 and driving a Club Sport? Are we talking shades of gray different or picture a 964 RS, real RS versus a 964 RS America. Totally different products.
So a lot of the allure in the Club Sport is what you mentioned, the RS style or Speedster style seats that you would have gotten in a 1994 Speedster, one of the 964s. The seats are a little bit different, but they feel very similar to a Recaro Profi, a normal one. So if you're comfortable with sitting in one of those, it's slightly wider and it's covered with Nomex, which is pretty good. Just like a 968 Club Sports are available with options. So MO30 is not a standard feature on Club Sports, nor is limited slip differential. 968 Club Sports do come with a slightly lower front spring. It's about an inch shorter, and the spring rate is a little bit higher. The rear, I couldn't tell you if the torsion bars are different in the rear of a 968, the standard 968 versus a Club Sport. My personal opinion is if I had my druthers, I'd have a really cool color, 968, something like Wimbledon green, like you posted the pictures the other day on your Instagram. To me, that was insane. I love Wimbledon green. It's a great color. Do that. I don't even think MO30 is necessary because you get the bigger brakes from a 928 S4. But honestly, the one that I owned, I did for the Porsche Restoration Challenge in 22. We went kind of crazy on the brakes. The fronts we converted to 964, or sorry, 928 GTS, which is like a 993 turbo big red, but it's black. Changed the front disc to 964 turbo that were cross drilled, went rear MO30, and then sent the rears off to PMB for a rebuild. And then we had to put in, I think, a 533 proportioning valve so that everything worked together. That's way better than the 928 S4 brakes that you get on the standard car. And it's something that you can do with a couple of adapters here and there. And honestly, a nice set of Coneys or Bilsteins, I think, is good enough for the suspension. And I had an extra set of sports seats laying around, which I know that Dave could possibly build you if you didn't have them. That to me, with everything functioning correctly, is a really rad package. But I will tell you, since moving to really starting to love 911s, I've kind of fallen a little bit less in love with 968s. 944 turbos, I believe, give you a little bit more allure and a little bit more fantasy than a 968. But I still am a 968 guy because I did spend a tremendous amount of time really figuring out how they worked.
Can't you buy those cars as actual cup cars? Then aren't they road legal? You can, yeah. And isn't from that generation, it's the 968 that you can actually put on the road, the cup car, but isn't the 964 cup car also streetable?
So they didn't make a 968 Cup car. They campaigned them in some racing. The 968 race car was called a Turbo RS that they actually ran at Le Mans. That's a different animal. They made 14 Turbo S's and 4 Turbo RS's. I'm sure Paul saw that blood orange one. I think we've actually talked about it
Yeah,
before.
that's my neighbor's car, and he has the best 90s Porsche collection I have ever seen. And I always said, like, hey, he's offered it to me. I go, I want to do it in the right environment, not drive around Costa Mesa. But that blood orange turbo, 968 Turbo S is insane.
I'm coming that day when you drive that.
But going back to the 968 Club Sport, I came at the time I bought my 944 Turbo S. You could get a decent one for 30 grand, and you could get a Club Sport in a not wow color for like 50 grand, or 60. It was like double the price. And in the end, I just didn't think it would be double different, or even like like if you closed your eyes and you, like you said, drove a 968, street car just modified nicely versus the Club Sport. I don't think the engines are any different, right? They're world engines.
Nope. Same,
Yeah. So to
240
me,
horsepower.
they're another version of an automotive lap dance. Looks so good, but in the end of the day, is it worth the price to have a cool color with matching wheels?
So Casey, you said you choose a 944 turbo, like an 89 over a 968, like Club Sport. Did I hear you say that right?
I think there is I'm I'm a bigger fan of traditional boxed fenders. When I did the second restoration challenge, when I got really deep into 944 turbos, I really fell in love with that platform and that type of car. And the 968 engine, even though it's one of the biggest four cylinders ever made, golly, people are going to get mad when I say this. It's just a little boring. You can do a couple of things, like a couple little things when you tune them up. You can do some things like a tune. You can do a bigger turbocharger. You can do hybrid turbochargers. You can do all these things that really make the car more interesting. And when you do that, I just think that it gives the car a little bit more whimsy than traditionally if you were just to drive a 968 with 240 horsepower and it doesn't rev super high, but it's got a great amount of torque.
You know, it's funny. We didn't mean to make this the transactal. I can't even say it. The 968 Porsche show for Full Throttle Talk, but it's gearing that direction. And of course, Paul's going to pile on a picture of his.
Yeah.
What are we seeing here, Paul?
Well, this is for whimsy. It's a 88 944 Turbo S. They made I don't know, for US market, 700 of these. They were only supposed to make about, I think 300, which were the silver rose ones, but there was such a demand that they did other colors. So this is a white on black one I bought 4 or 5 years ago as an alternative rally car. Had 120,000 miles. In 4 years, I've put almost 20,000 rally miles, including 100 miles in gravel on the Overcrest rally. And I have four white cars. I love white, but I don't like love white. So I was looking for a thing to spice it up. I've always loved Dutch police cars and the Dutch Porsche police cars. So we did a kind of this my own version of a Dutch police livery with reflective tape and all the other doodads. And I drive it to Newcomb's. In fact, this last weekend, I put 400 miles on it, driving to Newcomb's Ranch and to Rancho Santa Fe and Encinitas. I'm trying to get as much cars and coffee and driving in as I can.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you guys my update for what I've been doing since the last week. We finally put together our Hillbilly Car Guy Tour. I don't know if you guys remember the Italian Car Guy Tour from a few years ago. Frank
Yeah.
stopped doing it, but this is our itinerary for our Hillbilly Car Guy Tour. So we're leaving this Sunday, and we're taking Zoe up to camp at Highlands. And then Julie and I are going to be kind of just going around to the various places. We're going to go see Dave at Sunderworks. We're going to go see the Ingram Collection. Cam's having us over. And we're then going to go up to where the 550 is because the assembly of that car is finally started. And then ultimately, we're going to cap the whole trip off with a trip to see Corvettes being made. I thought you guys would really appreciate that.
Sweet. Did you get your jorts? You got your denim shorts and your
Yes, of course. I ordered them. They're coming right now from China. You can't
the
get
New
them
Balance.
Oh no, I already had those. You kidding me? I had the whole
Perfect.
collection.
And remember, white, sports socks, ankle, past not ankle. You got to go all the way to the calf.
I'm 100% in, and Julie's gonna rock the same look too. So we're gonna definitely do that. We're gonna
Perfect.
we're gonna do our best to embarrass ourselves.
Perfect.
But so Paul, from your last week, what is your automotive highlight? By the way, I should have told everyone we are going to be talking about what did you do in cars this week, automotive news. We're going to be talking about spoilers and wings, this or that, listener connect a collection, just different kinds of fun stuff. So Paul, your turn.
Well, as I mentioned before, drove the 944 much of the weekend. And unfortunately, Friday was my Good Vibes Breakfast Club day. I decided it's 4th of July. I knew it'd be crazy. So I decided to have breakfast with a friend and go up kind of late. I got up to a part in the Angeles Crest about 4 miles south of Newcomb's Ranch, which is called the S's. And unfortunately, an accident caused by this Honda Fit that you see right here. Here's a front angle shot of it. Basically, as we've talked about before, lane discipline. This Honda Fit understeered, carrying too much speed, went over the yellow line. I'm not sure exactly the order, but hit a Camaro, which sent it up on its side. The Honda Fit driver, reasonably fine. I think something wrong with his arm. The Camaro driver seemed to be fine. But unfortunately, the Honda S2000, I've met him before. He's a kid who comes up there. It was a fatality. He died at the scene. And it was just a combination of bad decisions. The Honda driver was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. We waited. I got there, and after about 20 minutes of waiting, they opened the road, but it had been closed for 2 hours, both directions. So people were stranded up at Newcomb's. I just turned around and went home after that. And then, as I mentioned, I went to the next day, hoping for something a little lighter. Went to Rancho Santa Fe Cars and Coffee, which is down in San Diego. It's just on the street. And this is one owner, and he had brought his F40 and his F50 out. And
Is that him standing guard with the cap on?
no, my friend knew him, and I said, "Is he anywhere near there?" He's like, "No, he went and got coffee and got away from his cars because he would have been inundated." But very cool Cars and Coffee. It's every Saturday. It's just on the local Rancho Santa Fe, just the little neighborhood coffee place. Amazing cars. I mean, very eclectic. Lots of old Italian Giulias, and my friend brought his Lancia Fulvia that he just bought, and after that, and then Sunday drove because I wasn't done driving, went up to Malibu, and the first time driving on PCH since PCH had been closed due to the fires. So this picture I took, this was January 1st this year, about a week or 4 days before the fires. And the building up to the right, the red building, that's gone. And then this is this last Sunday photo. It's hard to see, but everything's wiped out in the area. It felt like driving through a cemetery. I mean, it wasn't the road was all the way open. They had it slowed down to 25 miles an hour with, I think I counted 10 or 11 radar police doing pigging back. So I brought my 928 because one, it's an automatic. Two, the cruise control works really well. And I knew this was going to happen. I just set it on cruise control for 30 and my radar was just going nuts. I had Waze going. But I think they were making a very clear point that, they can't have, and as a result, besides the speed limit, it wasn't a lot of traffic. It was just moving along slowly. So you're going kind of in this this funeral procession, seeing the burned out houses. Like we've seen them, all the images on social media and the news, but to actually see, that famous picture of the 997, you could tell it's a 997.1 with the lobster claw wheels melted. There's just carnage there. And then the weird thing is there'll be pristine houses. So, it was a lot of fun car stuff, seeing people, but some somber stuff, somber bookends of the weekend.
Very dystopian. Well, we're flying into LAX for Car Week, and we're getting a car. Thanks for the suggestion. For what was it called? Toro.
Turo, yeah.
Yeah. And we rented a 991.2 red, and you'll love this, Paul, with red interior, Carrera, cabriolet.
You know what we call that? That's called the hemorrhage package.
Oh. If I seem a little slow, it's because Zoe decided to pull an all-nighter last night. And of course, an all-nighter included the rest of the family staying up too, between the dog barking and Zoe preparing for breakfast starting at 4 a.m. So I'm dragging a little bit. Anyway, yeah, all right, that's cool. So let's move on. As far as what you guys are doing in your businesses, I'm really curious about that. You guys are all in the car business. I am not. I'm like most of our listeners and our viewers on YouTube, where we're just sort of, car enthusiasts, car nerds, but you guys are really into it. So what I'd like to start doing on a regular basis is doing an inventory and business updates. We got Dave back on. Hopefully his audio is not going to be terrible. So Paul, let's start with you. Give us some highlights of cars that you have incoming, that are for sale, things that you're excited about, and give us some price ranges and market trends,
Sure.
and then bounce off Casey and Dave, and let's just really fill these guys' brains with what the actual market conditions are. Because I remember, Paul, when we did this show, maybe it was only 3 or 4 months ago, we were talking about there was a lot of uncertainty in the market. We were seeing a lot of folks that we were actually thought that there was going to be falling of car prices. And from what I can tell, the market's definitely turned around and people are feeling more optimistic again. But like I said, I'm not in the car business. So go first.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I mean, I think in general, things are a little slower, but there's always these blips. And in the last week, for whatever reason, I saw unusual activity, not just with us, but with, auction sites. We had a 2013 991.1 Carrera C4S coupe PDK with 36,000 miles. That just, we just took a deposit on that yesterday. This is the second time selling it. It sold for $80,000. I still say that the 991.1 is the best modern 911 value. I still don't understand why people are sleeping on, but just a little caveat that was with this car, and I saw it with other ones, early PDKs and PDKs and GT3 RSs, like 991.1 and 991.2 GT3 RS PDKs are starting to have speed sensor failures, which what is interesting is even, people thought, 150,000 miles, these transmissions will fail because Porsche said they're a non-service item or whatever, and they do need actual service. But what's happening is there's all these little sensors on the transmission, and the only way to get to them is pull the transmission out and remove it and open it up to some degree. I don't know what degree. Well, what's happening is the Porsche dealer, big surprise, for $25,000 wants to give you a new transmission. And it's nothing to do with the actual transmission, it's these sensors. So the 991 we just sold, what'll happen is you'll driving along and it'll stick in a gear. It'll go into limp mode. You turn it off. It seems to work fine. You take it to a shop. And by the way, the shop he took it to, it took 4 months to get in line because there was that many PDKs in front of him. And there's only a handful of shops. Porsche doesn't sell the sensors. It's an aftermarket company. That repair is a $12,000 repair. And that's about as inexpensive. And I'd say of that, 10% of that price is the parts and the rest is labor.
Well, let me ask you about this. So, Hover, so if you're saying if you come across, because this is kind of breaking news, I haven't heard this before. Dave, with a head nod, are you aware of this? And have you, Casey, heard of this? Dave says he has. I haven't. So, if you're in the market for a 991.1 and you're saying just PDKs in general that are, pushing a decade old, be monitoring whether the speed sensor's been replaced. Otherwise, you're walking a $12,000 bill.
Yeah, I mean, it's 997.2 PDKs, 991.1 PDKs. I don't know how far it goes. I know the GT3 RS 991 era, both 0.1 and 0.2, have had issues with the speed sensors. And by the way, I have now heard this anecdotally for the last 6 months from several people on a rally. And the challenge is just when it fails, getting in line to get it fixed. And I kind of wonder, is this going to be like the IMS bearing and bore scoring? And just, every generation has their Achilles heel. And the 991.1 and 997.2, the early PDKs might be it. I don't know, is there a way you can, besides having proof that the sensors have been done, is there any other preventative measure you can take or diagnostic thing you can do to make sure there's no problem?
Dave,
I don't know.
Dave, do you have a response to this? You want me to unmute you? Dave, I'll unmute you, Dave. Oh, ask to unmute. Hold on. I think I can unmute him.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so we've had this on Caymans as well. Same kind of situation where dealer will do nothing other than want to offer the new transmission. Now, I will get this information, and I apologize, I'm in transit here, but so I don't have any cool pictures or anything to show. But Paul, I've got a guy in Pennsylvania that we've sent up a couple of cars to, and the repair, same situation, was about $4,000. So it seems to be widely known about whatever this issue is, but at the same time, Porsche themselves don't really want to address it. They'll just want to sell you the new trans.
What's the miles correlation? Is there one? Is it just age?
I haven't seen a miles correlation. I think it's a time thing.
Wow, that's incredible. So that's really incredible for anyone who's in the market for one of those cars to make sure you know what you're walking into. But from a resale perspective or from a market perspective, if word gets out about those cars having that problem, you're probably going to be able to get those at a huge discount. And if you know someone like Dave, you'll be able to get something fixed. So problem not solved. Maybe it's a $15,000 discount. Problem solved. Maybe it's, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And I think what'll happen is as this issue, I think, will get larger as these get older, and people are more vocal about it. I think there's going to be another cottage industry that pops up.
Totally.
Just like the 991.1, the big issue they had before was the door panels would come apart, and Porsche wanted to replace the door panels for like $4,000 a side. It was ridiculous. Now there's some guy in Florida that for $1,000, including shipping, he even tells you what box to buy, how to package them up, how to take them off, and he fixes the problem. So I think, like anything else, because this isn't seem to be actual transmission gears and clutch packs and things like that, it just seems to be stupid sensors. Someone will come up with a better fix that's less money.
Yeah, all manufacturers have their
those
little
panels. We fix those panels all the time. Absolutely, every one of the 12.5 to 15 door panels on Caymans, Boxsters, 911s, even some Cayennes are going to peel up like that. We fix them all the time. The dealer sends them up to us to fix. We do it for less than $1,000 for both sides, though. So
yeah,
it's a very common thing.
And where's the dealer charge the customer?
I have no idea about that.
I've seen the receipt. That 991.1 we have the guy got talked, strong armed the dealer to do it under warranty or goodwill, and they did one door panel was $4,200 because it was because it was Porsche now just replaces the whole part. It was a whole door panel with the speakers with the leather insert to match the leather. I mean, it was a waste of money. And the guy I found in Florida who does it, he even tells you, Dave, go to U-Haul, buy the wardrobe box, cut it down to this. It's the perfect size. He like gives you step by step how to take them off and put them in. And I think kind of like muffler exchanges, if you have a program where you send them a box, they put it in there and you just sort of do an exchange or whatever. But on another note, so that car sold. We had a 964 C2 manual coupe. It looks like that's going to a principal at a Porsche dealer for his personal collection. We're finishing up today. Right now, the only inventory we have left is this, we call it the Terracotta Warrior, which is a 68 911 sport purpose built. This is when you have a passion and you know exactly what you want to build for what purpose. My friend built it starting in 2019. To do this today, and I had a metal guy come look at it for a client a couple days ago, this would be a $300,000 bill. All metal, except for the bumpers and the hood's carbon fiber, but all the fenders are metal, the deck lid's metal. It weighs 1,900 pounds. It's, sport purpose to the nth degree, very lightweight, no frills, obviously no radio. All the windows are Lexan, including the roll up, except for the windshield. And then it's it's a numbers matching 68. The 2 liter's been built to a 2.5 with EFI, and it dynos at the engine at the crank at 252 horsepower.
Holy man.
And this car, I mean, it is fun to drive, and it's one of those cars that wants to be driven at 4,000. Like when you're driving on the street and you're like, where you would be normally in third gear, you have to be down in second gear. It redlines it. The rev limiter is set at 8,300 RPM, but it's good for 9,500 RPM motor.
How much are you asking for that one, Paul?
150.
150. And so let's move on. You've got also another car that I was excited that you started talking about before I hit record that I wanted to. No, let's go to the RS.
Oh, yes.
We talked enough about 996s. All right, let's talk about this thing.
All right. We actually sold this car about 3 or 4 years ago. I drove it at first about 6 months before we sold it to give the owner kind of final finishing touches that need to be done.
Let's let everyone know what we're talking about, because
it's a 1973 RSH homologation tribute. And I've owned RS clones and tributes. I love them. This is by far the best version I've ever seen. The owner started the build in like 2006 and bought a lot of real parts when he could get them. And this was this 10-year obsessive build with a lot of factory parts, the right glass. It's got, let me pull up, it's got the 2.7 MFI motor done with all the right CAD plating. The guy just nerded out. He's even got the lollipop, or not the lollipop, these RSR turnbuckle seats. He went nuts. I mean, there literally was no stopping him. I drove it twice up to the mountains. Once was just the sorting, and the other time was just to see how it came out. And I've driven a couple RSs, and this is about as close as it gets. I sold it to a friend of ours, client. He took it on one rally, and then I think he was a little intimidated, and it was potentially going to snow, so it freaked him out, and he bailed out early. Me, of course, I just drove through the snow. Who cares?
Let me ask you some questions, and then Casey and Dave and I will guess what you're going to have that as the list price, because you haven't told us yet. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that's an H, and you educated me earlier that means it's the lightweight. So it's going to have real, and you're saying the car's got real lightweight parts on it. It looks like the car was, I don't see any decos on it or anything like that. So this isn't a hot rod. This is, really done authentically.
Yep.
I assume the motor's a 2.7 with 210 horsepower and the correct fuel injection and all that.
Correct.
Okay.
It's as close as you can get.
All
And by
right.
the way, HH stands for
H is
homologation.
homologation.
They made
That's even
lightweight.
cooler than lightweights.
Yeah, they made
Ah.
like 10 or 11 homologation cars, which was the original spawn of making the RSs. These were tended to be race cars. And just to give you an idea, I think I mentioned to you about 2017, maybe 2017, 18 was the last time one of these sold. It was at RM in Monterey. At the time, $1 million would buy you a decent Series 1 lightweight, and this sold for 1.7 million.
You're
So
saying that car, or you're saying an H did?
a real H, a real
Okay, a
RS homologated,
non-tribute.
sold
Okay.
at the time for not quite double, but 70% more than a Series 1 lightweight, which is
Ah.
the most desirable outside of the RSHs.
All right, Dave, you guess. What do you think he's going to list this thing for? Because he hasn't told us yet. You got to unmute
If you
yourself.
can hear me still, hopefully, yeah,
Yep.
I'm here. I'm gonna say, I don't know, 175. There's my guess.
Okay.
And the closest to, without going over, is going to win, right? We win the car.
We're
Yeah,
not doing prices right rules. It's just whoever's the closest,
Damn
up or
it.
down.
I'm going to bid a low price because I really like the car and I might want to buy it. So I'm going to tell you a really low price. So Casey, be on my side here and tell him like 89.9. No, damn it,
Nah, 250.
250.
Yeah, well, game respect game. You showed two car. I think I know. Does the guy that owns the orange car, does his name start with a G?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I tried to buy his 964 Turbo S2 for a client a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
That
The red
guy's
one.
awesome. Yeah, but you showed two cars in a row with two clock deletes, and that's game respect game right there. But no,
That's
I think,
like pheromones to Casey.
but I mean I'm not sure if it's a real 2.7 MFI that came out of I don't know if it came out of
That's a good question.
74 Carrera or if it was a 2.4 liter built to MFI 2.7 liter MFI specs, but I mean,
It was the white RSH Tribute was a 7R case, which came out of a 74, which was the exact case you would use, the 73 RSs used. The MFI pump is an S MFI pump built to RS specs. I mean, it was done insane. You know, the wheels are real Fuchs 7s and 8s. They're date stamped like 73, 74.
yeah,
Just-
the guy really great attention to detail. Does it have like Glaver Bell glass in it? You said it's got the right
yeah,
glass
it's got
in
the
it?
side ones, not the rear.
Yeah, I mean that's huge money right there. If somebody had like a wrecked one, that's really unobtainium stuff. Yeah, I don't know, 250, maybe even more than that.
All right, so let me ask you a question, Paul, before I guess. All right, so would you rather have that or really, really nice early long hood S and a bright color?
Oh, this all day long. All day long.
Damn it. That means it's over 200 grand.
All day. Well, here's the thing is, I always say to people, if you drove a long hood with a proper 2.7 MFI RS spec motor, you would stop putting 3.2 short strokes, 3.6s, and all the other goofy crap they put in these early cars, because that is the perfect motor. I mean, even when you talk about guys who put the 2.8 RSR motors, those were still like grenades. You pulled a pin, there was no modulation, it was all or nothing. And the 2.7 MFI, I mean, it's just I always say it's like having great sushi. Once you've had it, you're kind of screwed because you're always seeking that taste out.
Okay. I've never had great sushi then because it always tastes the same to me. So there you go. Well, I'll go. So
By the way, great sushi may not always be in the Appalachian Mountains there. So
well,
just
that's
saying.
true. You don't think the good fresh fish makes it up to the Appalachian Mountains? That's
Don't think
weird.
so.
The old moonshine pipeline. I'll go with, I think unfortunately Casey's probably right because I'll tell you where my mind's going. Like Dave's got our blue RSR and I know what that guy had in that car when he put it together and he built that car. Oh shit. I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. So to replace that white car, because those are, full on nerd parts, I bet you it would cost 300,000 or 400,000 at the very least, and maybe even more. So I would say probably a realistic sale price on that thing would probably be between 250 and 300 grand. That's what I think.
Well, I appreciate that. Dave was closer. It's probably going to be around 210 to 215. And although it is an insanely great build, I would say the main reason, and this is the part I wonder in 20 years from now, we look back going, were we idiots? Is color. Like He did this the way all the RSHs were all white. That's how Porsche built their factory race cars. There might be one that was a different color, but nothing exotic. If he had built this the same way, but did, blood orange, Gulf blue, I mean, just a great shade of orange, blue, or green, I think 250 plus. But right now, I think people buy a lot because of color, not because of how it's built, how it drives, what it represents. And it's the same reason this terracotta, it is an insane great car. He really built a color. It's a 356 color that's so obscure. Most 356 people don't know it exists. It is orange, but it's an odd orange. And, the interior, it had this weird checker. The current owner put in this corduroy that honestly looks like foreskin, and I'm not a huge fan of. But like literally, this car, if it had done Pepita inserts and did the
Hold on, you're not a fan of foreskin, or you're not a fan of corduroy inserts?
Corduroy inserts that look like foreskin.
Oh, okay, all right.
And if this owner had done signal orange, nothing different, just same seats, everything, signal orange with Pepita inserts, not only would it have sold, it would have sold for more.
I happen to know a really killer interior guy in North Carolina that could fix that problem for a lot less than you
The
possibly
challenge
think.
is it's not my car, and if the owner, I mean, as we know, to do the changes, the interior not bad, but to repaint the car, I mean, you start at 20 grand. It's all going to come apart. All of that trim isn't blacked out. It's Cerakoted, which is, as Dave knows, is expensive and difficult. And that's another thing. If he would have come talk to me and said, "Hey, I want to do something fun, but I want to be able to have it resellable," I would have said, "Done signal. I really want an orange. I go do signal orange, do all the trim in the proper short wheelbase bright work." Chrome or aluminum or however it is. I know there's different changes. The Group 4 magnesium wheels, they look rad. The 911R taillights are Frenched in. It looks rad. It sounds bitchin'. It drives bitchin'. It's not contemporary cool in the sense that what people want. And so I think, the one thing that we know is changes is taste, and colors come and go. And I think whoever gets this is going to have incredible buy. And just to let you know, this really high level metal guy came by our shop to talk to us about another project. And he didn't know we had this car. And he just stopped where he was, spent an hour just digging around it, asked, can I open stuff? I'm like, knock yourself out.
Who did the bodywork, Paul? Do you remember?
The bodywork was done in Seattle area, and I will tell you right now, and he knew the shop. He's like, wow, those guys are not cheap at all. The body was done by DG Vintage Coachworks out of Seattle. They did everything, all the body panels, all the painting, and then Holleran Performance in Auburn did all the mechanicals, the suspension, the engine, the transmission, all of those things.
It's worth mentioning and you've restored cars, and I had that 67S that I bought from Magnus Walker that I restored. For sure, having pedigreed guys do work on the car makes an enormous difference, because the market for who you're going to sell that car to is so small. And to this day, I've seen our 67S. It was at Mecum recently that didn't sell. Rumor has it that a famous baseball player owns it now. But in any event, they're still talking about the same pedigreed guys that worked on the car originally.
Yep.
So if you're thinking about restoring a car like this, unfortunately or fortunately, you better be working with, frankly, a lot of the guys in Southern California, because they're some of the most recognized ones, not just in California, but globally now for their expertise. But as far as interiors go, I would definitely send the car to Dave. I mean, for sure.
I mean, here's the thing is, yes, you're absolutely right, Tim. You have to have the right guys doing it, not just because they'll do a good job, but for the provenance and pedigree.
Yep.
But I almost feel like you need, like when you're building a house, you get an architect, you get an engineer, you get a contractor. You don't go, well, you know what? I'll deal with the designer. I don't need the designer. I'll do it myself. You usually get someone who has design sense, design background, experience. And I honestly think when someone's building one of these cars, a shop should say you need to talk to, like Porsche has their Sunderwich department. They have people or exclusive that will sit down and help you, design a car.
It's also worth mentioning on both of those cars, they're basically used, 10-year-old 911 non, S or just Carrera money, or frankly, Cayman money or Spyder money, So those cars are, fantastic. And I'm still interested in that white one. I have to think about whether or not I'm going to call you, because if I know I do, you will sell it to me. All right. So
Yes.
Casey, you will, as you always have. Casey, anything interesting in your life? What have you experienced in the last, like we're talking about, obviously we're talking about what's going on in Paul's life. He talked to us about the 911 RS, and he was going to tell us, and he talked about his orange car. So what has your experience been? I'm reading your notes. Oh, that's good. Let's hear. You said you brokered a deal on one of your favorite 911s.
So before we get there, let's make the $250,000 question, right? Would you rather have that white car, Paul? Let's say you listed it for a quarter, or would you have a nice 74 MFI matching number car in a
That's
good
an awesome
color?
question.
74 MFI. But
Okay.
but here's a caveat. I think what people see selling for 250 in a 74 MFI will buy you a not interesting color that's a good, decent car. If you want a good, like a really great Euro Carrera in a great color, those are quietly trading well over 300. You just what you see on BAT and on the public sites are kind of the ones that didn't transact, which are usually white or black, and they're good cars. They're not great cars, but still, assuming a white or black MFI Euro Carrera. I've owned three of those. I sold them when they were worth well under six figures, and I kicked myself because I think the 74 to 76 MFI Euro Carrera is actually a better driving car than a 73 RS.
So I
Wow.
I would agree. I spent Well, I mean, to me, I think it's more mental because when you drive like an RS Touring, right? That's a $500,000-600,000 car. It gives you a little bit of a pause because of the expense. But I'm still saying a quarter, right? So the orange one that I look after, I've actually reached out to Dave. It needs the interior, some of the spots redone because it's got that weird blue black leather, and
Yes.
unfortunately, it's coming apart in certain areas. But that car being, just a little scruffy, even though it's beautiful, it's orange, it's like the IROC color. It's got all the stuff. It has a ducktail spoiler in it that's not necessarily, it's not a factory one because it came with the flat deck lid. But that's an awesome car. Gosh, they run so great. 2.7 liter MFI cars, like as you and I have waxed before, there are very few driving experiences where literally the moment you touch that throttle, that thing snaps open. It's crazier than a Weber carburetor. Even the most perfectly set up one, a really nice MFI car, it's so hard to beat that.
Yep. And I
Yeah.
would say, and I would venture to say, at speed, 5,000 RPM, I don't know if there's a better Porsche sound than that engine at 5,000 RPM. It is
Because it's beautiful induction
yeah.
noise with
Yeah.
valve sound and all that. It's so good.
All right,
It's
Well,
Tim.
so
Casey,
good.
Casey and I are
just
gonna go
Sorry,
get
I digressed. So
Casey
Casey and I
just
are gonna
talked
go
me
get
out
a
of your,
room. We'll be back.
yeah.
Casey just talked me out of your white car, so I don't want that piece of crap now. So I'm going to go find one of these 74s.
Yeah,
So
so I've been very busy evolving my business towards vehicle brokering of cars that I know and trust and love, and also working on getting stuff ready for Bring a Trailer. My one of my favorite cars that I've ever sold is in the picture behind me, if you can see it. I don't know how to do that thing where I
just
fake
Cover
so
your
you,
cover your
cover your
camera.
camera lens. Just
Yeah, cover your camera lens with a sticky
There
note.
you
There
go.
you
there you go.
go.
So there we
Perfect.
go. That's my
We're high
thumb.
tech.
So when I bring I bring my thumb off, it's going to look really bad. But I originally sold this car in 2011, and I ordered it for the dealership. It languished at the dealership because that was right around the time that 992 was released. But it's a C2 2011 car. Atlas Gray, which I think is one of the best 997 colors. In 2011 was a $3,000 option. This car I optioned originally with XR or sport wheels, which I think are the best wheel and also the widest wheel you could get on a narrow body car. It had Sport Chrono and PASM, which were, or sorry, it did not have Sport Chrono. It had limited slip differential and PASM, which are rare, super rare options for 2011 cars. So I originally sold this car to a lady that was affiliated with kind of the dealership at that point. And she owned it for 10 years, 10 or 11 years. I heard that after actually, it was more than that, it was like 13 years. I left the dealership at this point, and my buddy traded the car in another local dealership and pulled one of my certified 2011 business cards out of the books for the car and all the paperwork, which was great. And I knew a buddy that just had sold a GT3 Touring. So I said, you need to buy this car. So he bought the car and it got shipped to me where I was at that point. And we went through the car. We put on Bilstein suspension. We put on a GT3 shifter, did a couple of maintenance items, and then shipped it out to him. He took it to Nick and the guys at Beeline. They did a full dry ice cleaning of the vehicle, and then did some other odds and ends. Sharkworks put an exhaust on it and some other things. But really, he got the car super dialed. And he's my buddy that ended up with the car is making some life changes currently and possibly looking at a move. So I was going to list the car for him on Bring a Trailer when he was ready. Turns out another guy that I was looking for a 996 GT3 for decided that maybe that wasn't the way he wanted to go. And I pitched him this car, and looks like they're finishing it up this morning. So really amazing car, amazing story. I've sold probably 15 or 20 cars 3 times. I've never sold the same car 4 times. Have you ever done that, Paul?
Once.
Oh man, that's it. So I've so many cars 3 times, never once four times. So this happened over the last 24 hours. And then working on cars for Bring a Trailer. I've got a 65 Resto Mod Trans Am coming up with a built 455 in it. I've got a 65 or 66 BJC Austin Healey 89 944 turbo. I've got a Jake Raby built 3.8 liter 996 cab with an Arena Red that's coming up. I've got a whole bunch of interesting stuff that's coming up. I'm going to spend a little bit of time once I get every one of these cars kind of shot to figure out whether it's a Bring a Trailer car or whether it's a Cars and Bids car. Like a guy approached me with a Mercedes-Benz C63 507, which they didn't make many of. So I think that's more of a Cars and Bids car, honestly, than a Bring a Trailer car. But I need to do some diligence on all of them.
Casey, let me ask you about that. First of all, I'm genuinely curious. I'm sure the listeners are as well. About you. Have you become, or are you working on becoming the Bring a Trailer, like a Bring a Trailer official, representative in that particular market? I don't know what the nomenclature is.
So
and then how do you decide what goes on Cars and Bids versus Bring a Trailer? Like, because that C63 507 seems to me like that's a sweet Bring a Trailer car.
Well, it depends on how much the people tear the car apart, right? So on Bring a Trailer, you are
condition,
often,
you mean?
it's often brought to, well, you need to have proven history. You need to have something, or 50 people are going to get in the comments and be like, it doesn't have this,
Yep.
and this. And so you need to kind of tenure where you believe it goes. There was a really great PCA video that came out with Nate Mers, I think his name is. He's the technical guy for vehicle sales and appraising. He's based out of the Pacific Northwest. He does insanely in-depth videos on buying those sorts of things. But the PCA Tech Tactics that takes place in Easton on the East Coast, he did a really great video about what to do when selling a car. And one of the things that he pointed out was making sure that the car goes to its right audience. So, Tim, you put in our notes the other week, there was it was a really good, interesting car that sold on Bring a Trailer, or that was listed on Bring a Trailer. It was a 1968 TR with Monte Carlo racing history. And
Yep.
to me, that car was the absolute shit. It had so many things going for it. It had,
He meant in a good way, Paul.
yep. It was
No, I know that car personally. I saw it for the first time in 2002 at our group.
Didn't that seem honestly super cheap? That was
It
my
didn't. It didn't. But I was to say, just really quick, it's funny once it gets listed where it's trying to get the facts straight. what the owner had told me for many years. And when I read that ad, I was like, oh, it's still a great car, but it was billed as this factory ST, but it was like a lot of race cars. It started off as a factory race car that evolved into different, outfits depending on what series it was racing at. And if it were me, the early pictures when it was like orange with the Gulf logo, when it in its like early first race livery, I would have done the car like that. It had these goofy flares. I think the reason it didn't sell as well, Tim, was because it was they picked a point in history that wasn't the right point in history to emulate when they restored it.
But
Wow.
if you could buy that car for 350, right? I don't think Bring a Trailer is the right place for
And by the way,
historic
it
race
sold for
cars.
what, 250?
Didn't
250?
didn't reserve not met.
Okay, not a surprise.
So let's say you bought the car for 300 grand. You spent 200 grand and you sent the car to Dave's got an insane body shop. I know his one of his guys, Rob, is restoring a magenta kind of 74 MFI look car that looks awesome. You send it to a great shop. You give them you say straighten everything that's not straight. Make sure that everything is right. You hire somebody that knows so much about those cars from that era, and you put that car back to original. I really think that at some point in time with the right collector, you could double your money on that car.
I
Bring a
think you're
tra
right.
Bring a Trailer is not the right place for historically significant race cars. There was a 934 that sold on that. I don't even know. Well, yeah, it sold on there for I think like 1.3 with like Le Mans history. I have a client that owns he owns a 1965 911 that won its class at Daytona, that he bought it on Bring a Trailer, and the number was dumb. It was the first 911 to win a historic 24-hour race, and he owns the car. I go see it all the time. He's got an insane collection, and I can't believe that he bought the car for the number that he did. If that car was marketed by a guy like I'll talk about Ray Schaefer again. If the car was marketed at Broad Arrow Auctions and Ray Schaefer did a video digging into the history and deep dive of the provenance of that car and put it up there, it would have sold for twice the amount. And
That's incredible.
so Nathan talks on this thing, which I'm going to recommend everybody go check it out. But he talks about finding the right place for the car. Bring a Trailer is really great for a tremendous amount of cars. And I think a lot of the cars that I am currently looking after would fit very well on there because you see really good comps as long as they're explained and documented correctly, which I'm really good at. So I do think that that would be a good opportunity for those cars. Now, you were talking about a preferred local place. I have taken so many meetings in the past week, 2 weeks, trying to evolve my business into making it something that I believe is very special because in the DC area, there is not a preferred partner. And I don't really see somebody trying to do what I am doing to effectively be a Paul Kramer, but in a more public sphere in terms of auction sales, because I want to give people the opportunity to be able to sell a car confidently and transparently so they know exactly what they're going to end up selling the car for, and they know that I'm going to be doing a good job representing it for them.
Let me ask a question. Just let's put numbers to this because again, I think this is going to be interesting. And you guys correct me, but if you put whatever, doesn't matter what it is, for sale at a normal auction house, and let's say it's a Monterey auction house, in Monterey auction, you're going to be spending at least 10% seller's commission. Let's just focus on the sell side. Versus if you put it with BAT, they don't Bring a Trailer, they don't charge you a seller commission. They make the commission on the buyer side. So if you list with somebody, if you have somebody like Casey, which is totally and completely what I would do, manage all of it for you. He's going to manage the dealing with the customers. He's going to prep the car. He's going to write the descriptions. He's going to get the pictures done correctly. He's going to deal with all the comments. He's going to be politely and respectfully shout down the morons that are basically posting up anything that's not factual, because that does happen a lot. You deal with the transaction, transfer all the money, do all the Mickey Mouse. And so I'm just out of curiosity, what's the business model? What have you seen other official Bring a Trailer guys doing in terms of commission on the sell side?
The big ones that I'm aware of, and I won't mention names, but most of them are around 10%, or they do flat fees. That's nowhere close to what I'm charging clients, because I would prefer to do a little bit more volume and get my name out there by that was something that I always did at Porsche. I did my best to provide exceptional service at what I believe was reasonable and competitive pricing so that then I could get referral business from those people rather than having to find more business through advertising, those sorts of things. I prefer that one-on-one intimate than, shotgunning. That's never been my thing.
And by the way, that 10% I've seen firsthand with some of clients who've used some of the premier sellers on the auction sites. Often that doesn't include some of the extra stuff
Oh,
like
prep.
ex prep and photography, videography. It's a lot of work. Like for instance, our fee for most cars, 60 to 200,000 is 10%. That includes standard detailing, photography, video work, social media, marketing, writing up the ad. It includes everything unless we got to fix something. If we got to fix something, then and I usually get a better rate than they would going and fixing it themselves.
I had Cam Ingram sell our 992 touring, and I would never have wanted to try to sell that myself because the guy that ended up buying it needed to finance it. He had to, all these Mickey Mouse moving parts. I just would never want to have to deal with any of that. But anyway, so yes, if you're thinking about putting your car for sale, definitely, really any of these guys, they all do consignment sales.
Yep.
So you guys will have to duke it out.
We're 10% as well.
10%.
We're doing 10% as well, but I will say that the photography and so on, and it does depend on the price of the car, because I can see a break for a car above $100,000. But at the same time, you're doing just as much work when you're working on a car. I've got one right now. Somebody's given me a 2002 996 Cabriolet, low miles, great car, but it's $25,000 to $30,000 car, and you'll spend as much time and effort chasing that as you will, $100,000 car. So you do have to have some mindset as to the amount of effort that's going to be taken in getting this car ready and prepped versus what you're going to net out of it based on the commissions and so on. So,
well, let me give a non in the car business car guy suggestion. So what I'll do is I'll list one of these cars if I have a car that I want to sell, and then I'll put a floor on it. So I'll come up with what I feel to be the fair market price, and then I'll tell whoever's representing me that everything above that they can keep, and I don't give a rat's ass what the amount of money is. Paul doesn't want to do that, but he's forgetting he's done that twice for me. So we're not going to.
Yeah, but when was the last time?
It was
10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
more
think,
than that, Paul.
I think if you're new starting in the business, you have to do some of those things, but you get to a point where I find that no one really wins. Like you really need everyone to win, and the seller's got to be happy, buyer's got to be happy, the person doing the sales, the consignor, needs to be happy, and I find that. In my experience, the people who offer those solution, I usually push to the bottom of the stack, and they're going to get my least amount of help. And I'm only going to work with them if they're kind of the last guy standing, like I need the business. And the only reason is I've found traditionally, I mean, like 99% of the time, when I'm done doing those deals, it never works out for me. And so
I believe that's true. I had a friend recently, well, let's say within the last 12 months, sell a Ferrari 812 Competizione, and he sold it through Ferrari of Dallas. And essentially, I was putting the whole deal together behind the scenes, telling him exactly how to structure it. His floor on the car was 1.4 million. He had paid, I think he had something like 850 in the damn thing. He didn't like the car. So he goes and puts it for sale with Dallas. They sell it for, we can't find a buyer. We can't find a buyer. It ends up selling for 1.6, but now those cars within the same 12-month window are now selling for over 2. That's incredible. I mean, that's crazy,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I can't see out of the back window. I can't stand those things.
I mean, look, I love Ferraris, but I don't get those. What are those little carbon fiber flicks? The first time I saw that thing looks totally Pep Boys in the back. I'm with you, Casey. And Ferrari, I didn't say that about Pep Boys. Paul Kramer did. So
that was all me. I will own that.
JC Whitney Ferrari. JC Whitney.
Yeah.
they have that same option on. So we still don't. We've got a 296 Speciale order, and we still don't know the retail. We don't know the manufacturer's list price, and we don't know the price of the options. And I've got a bunch of friends that are all on Ferrari Chat, basically talking about their cars that have been sitting at the port now for months. And evidently, there's a recall on some exhaust valve that's causing these cars not to be taken delivery. But what Ferrari did was Ferrari said that they were going to eat the tariff, and the tariffs on these cars, you're talking about $400,000-$500,000 cars. The tariffs are a lot. And so the other thought is that Ferrari's trying to wait out the tariff resolution between Italy and the United States, but we'll have to see. I think there's a lot of that stuff that's going on with these ultra high-end cars. Dave, do you have any interesting stories from the front lines of your world? Anything that you've restored or any kind of things that you want to share with us? By the way, you guys notice is Dave's on the longest trip to the airport ever. I mean, he's been sitting in that car for an hour. Good God.
3 hour drive that we've been on here so far. So we were up in northern Quebec. So a bit of a long drive, but moved a couple of cars. And I'd be curious, and I'd like to get Paul, Casey's, everyone's opinion on this in terms of price. I last week sold a 88, just a Carrera 3.2 G50 transmission. That one was at about 98,000 miles, something like that, 95,000 miles. Silver car, blue interior. I'll list that one first, and then sold an 87 red car. Darts red, black interior, sports seats, with about 150,000 miles, but at least some evidence of a top-end rebuild. So 2 cars, both with G50 transmissions. Paul, how do you think you would price those if you were?
And both coupes, right?
Both coupes, yep.
Okay. I mean, the silver one will sell for more because it's not red, white, or black, and it's under 100,000 miles, even though you get to that point, it's either a low mileage original paint car or it's not. And I see people go, "Ooh, gosh, I'll buy a 98,000 mile car, but I would never touch 150." And I'm like, at that point, it doesn't matter. I mean, the odometers are so prone to break that do we know exactly what the miles are? Really, what matters is the condition today. But the silver will sell more, and it does depend on condition. If it's what I would call a sports car market, solid 2 to 2 minus. And by the way, 1 is Pebble Beach. Most people who think they have a 1 don't have a 1. I mean, 1 is so few and far between. I would say 2 to 2 minus is a really high level driver. 3 plus is how most 100,000 mile cars are. But if it's 2 minus to 3 plus, I'd say the silver car is going to be probably under 100, maybe 85 to 90. And I think the red car, more miles, great. Yeah. G50 Carreras, and I can get on a rant about that. I think they generally need top end rebuilders much sooner. Yeah. And Casey's putting up a 7. I would say, yeah, high mid 60s to mid 70 range for the G50, the red one.
The red
And
one,
it's and I'm right.
Man, you're right. You win.
Woohoo.
Meanwhile, somewhere in Canada, somebody's sweating the fact that he overpriced 2 of his consignment cars.
Yeah, it's hard. I get this call all the time, and it's hard unless you have details. So, Dave, real quick before we lose you again, what were the numbers?
75 on the G50 red car with 150,000 miles. Silver car, 780. I mean, 75 and 80 were the 2 numbers.
You guys are hilarious.
I think the silver car's too cheap.
Well,
I think you could ask more.
It depends on condition
and all that stuff.
and that's the hard. And I was ranting about that. I get people all the time who will rattle off that. And I go, I don't know, and then they'll send me 2 photos that are so hard to tell anything. Like the worst photos, finger in the frame, half the car cropped out, and they're like, "Here it is, isn't it beautiful?" And it's tough. I've told clients this before. I don't care, number of owners, records, original paint, odometer, color. Those are all just suggestions of condition, not edicts of value. And that's always been my challenge is everyone just has these numbers. Like I'll ask people all the time, "Hey, I'm looking for a car with this less miles and only this number of owners." And I'll ask them why, and I've yet to get an actual realistically good answer versus something that they read on Bring a Trailer. And half the time, these people sound like they're just regurgitating Bring a Trailer comments as part of their dialect, and I just want to pull out a gun and shoot them.
It's no different than people being on forums back in the day, seeing one person say something that has some experience. Like I'll be the guy that says that I have not seen nearly as many IMS bearing failures as appear in the world. And I worked with Porsche since 996, right? So I've probably seen four, right? I've probably seen four IMS bearing failures ever. But according to the internet, every single car that has an IMS bearing that's produced by Porsche is going to explode. And if you look at comments on Bring a Trailer things, they'll be asking like 997 GT3 auctions,
IMS.
hey, have you changed the IMS bearing
Yeah.
on this car? It's just like, oh, give me a break.
Or my favorite, and that 68, the terracotta car. I got literally last week an email asking me, could I post DME reading? I mean, this is a car. I mean, I guess you could with EFI, but like, what data are you going to pull out of there?
Yeah, call up Haltech or whoever did the
You guys notice on Bring a Trailer, the people that ask for the most information, you look at their buying history, don't buy shit ever.
Yeah, they bid $200 for a $400,000 car so they can have history.
Yeah.
And then if they're ignored, exactly. And if they're ignored in comments asking for all these, I want the exact tire depth and paint, a brand new car. I want to know what the paint depth is.
Yeah.
And if you ignore them, they just start kind of throwing some crap on the seller. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, I have learned a tremendous amount from some super knowledgeable people on Bring a Trailer. They do exist, but just like anything on the internet, you have to take everything there with a grain of salt.
Well, that said, the best early 911 guys, since we never moved past Porsche very far anyway. Thank you, Paul Kramer. Definitely early 911S registry. Those guys on 911S registry, when we've restored 911 in the past, oh my gosh. You think you got something right until you just, have them debate it for, 14,000 comments and you get a good answer. Go ahead, Paul.
And that group will do actual constructive criticism.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just, and I started tracking about a year and a half ago, just like a little tally on my computer. Anyone who asked for a cold start video, driving video. Now I always post like a little quick test drive thing on social media. Now I'm putting it on YouTube Shorts and then sort of embed it into our listing. I have been asked that question over 100 times. I have yet to have one of those people who ask it buy a car. And so when they do it, I just say, I'm going to do my best to get to it. I'll send them the videos I've already taken, which I post on social media. And then what I usually do is say, hey, if, in fact, it's happening today on the terracotta. The guy asked for all of those videos. I say, you know what, better yet, why don't we set an appointment, get an iPhone. If you don't already have one, find someone who has one, and we'll do a FaceTime video. I'll walk you anywhere around the car. I'll even take you in my lap for a test drive, hold the phone. And of those people, the majority of them bail out at the last minute because all they want to do is...
Thank you for saying you'll put the phone in your lap. That was getting a little weird there for a second.
It's the phone.
Yeah. Well, you definitely work hard for your sellers.
Damn right.
Casey, let's move conversation to the car you have behind us. So if you guys aren't seeing us on video, let's talk about this new PCA car. That's what that is, correct? Go ahead.
So the car behind me I was lucky enough to deliver one of the 60th anniversary Club Coupes. I really enjoyed these cars. Even the 50th, which was, I would tell you, it wasn't super interesting. The 50th one came out in 2005, 6-ish. It was Azuro, California, tan interior with an X51 pack, which meant heads and exhaust manifolds and some other things. Wasn't that interesting, but it was a great start. The 60th, the car behind me, let me see if there we go. So like I said, I was lucky enough to deliver one of these when they were new. It was a specific color that Vu and the guys at PCA developed called Club Blau, which is now available as a paint to sample car. Not that Dave can get it on his GT3 RS, but anyway, he's giving us the frown face. It was a really awesome car. It had multi-tone stitching on the inside of the car. It was an aero kit car with a ducktail spoiler. It had Fuchs looking wheels on it. It was really rad. Super excited about it. I will now switch to the, I'm not as fast as Paul is when it comes to switching these pictures, but the current car is really cool. It is based on the new 911T. I have listened to a lot of the podcasts and videos about the car. I really find it interesting because a lot of the people that I used to work with in the exclusive department at PCNA are involved, including Michael Tam, who now runs two-door cars at PCNA. And I'm a big fan of PCA, and I've been a member for almost 20 years now, and I do their podcast from time to time. And I know that Vu and the executive council were very instrumental in the way that this car was built. The most recent PCA podcast that came out on Monday documents. They went down there a couple of months ago. I think it was Vu and Bogdan and Damon, and they did video work with the car. They did some photo work on the car, but they also did put together this podcast with people that are instrumental in putting it together. And I do know that building these one-off cars for a specific market is very difficult, and it takes years to do. The color is a metallic blue called Scholar blue. It's the name of the guy that started the PCA back in 1955. And it's awesome. There's a lot of really cool Easter eggs. The wheels were designed, and actually a lot of the exterior of the car was designed by a couple of Paul's buddies, which I'm sure he'll chime in here with in a bit. But really interesting, and my favorite quirk of the car, the dial on the steering wheel. Normally it would say like sport or whatever. It says no delay, which is it's basically based on what they say at what's that burger place out there that you guys like, Paul?
Yeah, In-N-Out.
In-N-Out. Yeah. So because they did a lot of the planning for this car sitting at booths at In-N-Out. And to me,
But the no delay turns all that mandatory safety crap off. Is that not correct?
no,
ADAS?
it's to put you in different driving modes. So
Oh, okay.
normal, dry, wet, those sorts of things,
Well,
or normal, sport plus, wet.
Let me ask some questions about this in case people don't know about it. So first of all, aren't they only making 70 of these?
Correct. Yeah, and you have
Okay.
to join if you're a PCA member, you can go to the PCA. If you are a PCA member, you have gotten an email and you could sign up to get the ability to have your name drawn to order and buy one of these cars.
So you have to be a PCA member. You have to then be invited to submit your name to buy one, and then they'll give you the right to buy one. And they're only making 70 of them. Do you have any idea? I think personally the best part of that car is the interior. That interior is spectacular.
Oh yeah, it's got really cool specific tartan
Oh,
specifically
it's
designed, and
fantastic.
the glove box is also lined with it. But
Inside,
they
yeah, I know.
they
Yeah.
start at 185 if I recall,
Well,
which to me
so
is a huge amount of money for a Carrera T. But if you look at the last Club Coupe, Isringhausen just listed one for sale and it was gone in a week. I think those cars, when I delivered the other blue one, were maybe 150, and that car with 7,000 miles on it, 10 years later sold for I think 2.25, 230. I mean, it's a special car, and
Right.
a lot of PCA people want to have all three. And so it really puts you in an interesting kind of thing. And
it
to
it
be
is
honest with
interesting.
you, yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's interesting they built that in a T and not a more powerful. But that was surprising to me. Was it
You
surprising to
need,
you, Dave? Was
you,
it that surprising to you that they built it on a T?
No, I think they wanted the manual, right? Isn't that car a manual?
That's why. That makes total
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, so they wanted a manual, and the current Porsche president, Andrew, was on the PCA podcast, and they said that their goal was lightweight and a throwback to what Porsche was in 1955. And the closest car to that, of course, other than a GT3 Touring or a GT3, is a Carrera T. So I'm sure that people will oh, actually, I was reading one of the YouTube comments on the initial video when it was released was the first guy said, "Man, I wish they made it in a PDK." And I was like, can't make everybody happy. But I really think it's an awesome car. I think they did a tremendous job with putting it together. And it's honestly the first second gen 992 that has given me any level of excitement.
Totally, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. So, like, as far as that car, you're saying that you believe that the start price on that is 185. I mean, I would assume that car's already spec'd and everything. You can't really do much to it.
I'm sure that you could do things like ceramic brakes or a couple other things here and there, but to my knowledge, I know that you can choose to or to not have rear seats from something Manny said in the video. But I don't believe there is a whole lot of adjustment that you can make to the car.
I don't know. Doesn't sound, even though it's a T, it does not sound that unrealistic considering what other things are selling for nowadays, in my opinion. That
But
seems actually that's expensive as hell, but that seems very
well,
in alignment with the market.
but here's a dilemma. You get one of those, and what do you do with it? The whole time you're thinking, oh, the value's completely tied into the condition and the odometer. I remember when the first one of those came out, the 2005, and the past president of our chapter got the opportunity to buy one, and he bought it, but he's a driver and he drove it. He did autocrosses with it, and I remember he's since moved back east, but and retired. But I remember when he was going to go sell it, he had like the highest mileage on it, and it was almost unsellable. Like the delta between that and just buying a really well-equipped 997.1 S coupe was not much different because the person who wanted to buy that car only wanted to buy a pristine collector grade car.
Makes
And
sense.
so to me, I look at that going, that's really cool, but I would buy a Carrera T, do paint to sample I want, take the inserts, send them to Dave, have him do the inserts I actually want, and have a car that I feel less guilty about beating the crap out of. I
But
don't know.
how much would that cost? Being that a Carrera T is 145, 150 grand, you check paint to sample, and then honestly, after you send it to Dave and he tells you that the inserts and doing the doors and everything's probably, I don't want to speak for Dave, 10, 12, 15,000
Yeah,
dollars.
but here's
But
the
you're
thing
at the
is,
same price though, then,
but
and
then
you
I
don't
get
have the
something.
wheels
I
that
know,
you
but I get
want for
something I
sure.
really like, the colors I like. I mean, I think those colors are cool, and I like that. But at the end of the day, I think just having this looming, um, I'm going to drive the value out of it over my head would just
That's
make
the
me feel
Ferrari
better.
owner's dilemma, what you're describing,
Yeah,
Paul. That's
right.
the Ferrari, and it is a bit of a plague,
Yeah,
honestly.
it
It
is.
does greatly diminish the experience.
Yeah, and that to me, it's not. I mean, I don't. This is supposed to be fun, and I watch, on the sidelines of all my clients going through this dilemma on certain cars, and I'm like, and part of the reason I have the cars I have and do the things I do with them is because I never want to be tethered to that kind of plague, as Tim calls it, because it is
Yeah.
a plague
It
for
is.
sure.
It is. Definitely greatly reduces your enjoyment. But I have to say that tartan in that I really do like. It's, a little bit Superman-y, a little bit, Go America, which I totally love. But I bet you that tartan is going to become one of Dave's biggest sellers. Everyone's going to want that,
Well,
even on their horrible brown cars. You watch.
I don't know if you saw it when you looked at the pictures. I can't pull it up that quick, but actually, the best part about that interior is the way they do the glove box. The inside of
Totally.
the glove
Yeah, it's
box is
awesome.
so that I don't know if Dave, you get a chance to see it, but the inside of the glove box, that could be the new upholstery,
Flex.
hot take. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
It's
flex.
like
exactly.
opening up your jacket and you've
Yeah.
It
got the
says
cool lining in
Superman.
it.
Or
Yeah.
having your underwear poke out from behind your
Yeah.
waist belt.
That
Well, we
must
can
just be
certainly
Southern
do all that for
California.
sure.
Yeah,
We
especially the
can
underwear.
certainly do that trimming on the inside of the glove box. That's straight up to do. So
That's
certainly
rad.
something we could do. I've never had anybody ask me to do the inside of a glove box, but
Now you
if this
will.
is going to start the trend, then by God, we're ready to respond.
Do you
I
guys
think
want to
it's
do
good
another?
shit.
Do you guys want to do another segment, or I don't know what your schedules are
Sure.
like?
I can
Are
do
you
another
good,
one.
Casey?
I got about 10 minutes.
All right, so you can go first. Let's do a this or that.
Oh boy. I didn't prepare one for today, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, you're gonna go last then. Paul, you
Okay.
go. You go first. This or that. So
Okay,
this.
I'm gonna
Let me tee it up. So this or that
perfect.
is where we go on to mostly bring a trailer, but not always bring a trailer. You'd think this is like the Bring a Trailer official podcast, considering how many free plugs we've given them. But in any event, so we'll go and find two cars, and we'll usually keep the cars in the same competitive price range. There's no cap on either end as far as what we're going to choose. So we're going to say, here's car A, here's car B. They're the same price or close enough. What would you choose and why? All right. So Paul, you are first.
Okay, so this was inspired by our recent sale of a 996 GT3. And for whatever reason, since I've been selling 996 any GT3 product for the last 20 years since they came out, for whatever reason, buyers cross shop those with similar era turbos. And I don't really understand because they could not be a more different experience. And sometimes they're not even in the same price range. So I want to do something in the same price range. So this car behind me, which I will cover, this is a 2007 997 Turbo Coupe 6-speed manual. Basically, the last way to get a turbo manual Metzger engine car. It's in a good color. which is midnight blue with a I call it peanut butter, but they call it sand beige interior. And here's the thing: is it was on Bring a Trailer. It sold recently. Um, don't know when it. Oh, it sold July 3rd for $133,000. And by the way, it has 46,000 miles, so it's not really in that world that low. I thought it sold really strong, and the photos were marginal at best. In fact, I had to find this photo because the lead photos made it look black, and I go nuts when it's a special color. And I had to actually find this photo to really show off that it was blue because I thought it was black, and I thought, who's paying $133,000 for a black 997.1 turbo? These cars are awesome. They're wonderful. They're the next iteration of a 996 turbo. They're actually, from a driving experience, pretty similar, like way more similar than they look. Because if this car was a 996 turbo in the same color and everything, instead of 133,000, it would probably be 80, 90,000. So I'm not hung up on those values. Now, in comparison, for 134,000, we just sold this. It's going to Louisiana. It's a 996.2 GT3 Polar Silver, 22,000 miles. Perfect, beautiful car.
I know what everyone's going to say, Paul. You can just stop now. And that,
Yeah.
I know what everyone's going to say. And that car is like super special too. I looked at that on your website.
Yeah.
Some of the options on that thing, on that silver GT3, were just really, really cool. I didn't even know you could do that on those cars.
Yeah, no one did because most of the GT3s were spec'd by the dealer, so they were playing it safe and doing Arctic Silver and whatever it is. And actually, one of the coolest things I learned, which I'm kind of envious of on my GT3, is this one had full power seats, which you rarely see. Usually, it's just the regular manual seats. And I sat in it. The full power seats, for whatever reason, they go lower and they go further back than the manual.
Wow.
And I was kind of envious because I really shopped for a manual seat because I thought it would go lower and further back. And for whatever reason, it doesn't. So anyway, this or that.
Dave, you're up first. Look, he's looking at us, making sure, see if his plane's taking off. Dave, you're first.
No,
Which do you want,
I
Dave?
think that one's pretty easy for me. I would like the GT3, the silver GT3, for many of the reasons we have discussed. I don't think the turbo is going to stand the test of time that this GT3 will. And that's kind of it. I take the GT3 plus. It has the Paul Kramer touch. So now that he's listed as one of the owners, I think that now that
No, that
car's
wasn't
value
that.
is-
That
No,
wasn't
no,
Paul.
this isn't mine.
Yeah, that wasn't Paul's. Yeah.
Oh,
This
it's
is
not
this is
yours.
no, no.
Okay.
No,
It's
that
the
one's too
second
nice for
time
Paul.
selling it.
Paul's
It
is
is.
always full of rock chips and old like hamburger wrappers.
It is. I literally did the mental math because I was sitting there, okay, I could sell mine for this. I could buy this one because I really, really like Polar Silver and I love painted back seats. But I think what I'll do is this inspired me to paint the back of my seats on my GT3. I just don't know what color yet.
I'll go next. So Casey has got more time to get his together.
I'm ready whenever you guys are.
Definitely the GT3. There's no doubt. And actually, Paul, what you told us last week about those things being seam welded, that made total sense from when we had our speed yellow GT3, our 04. And I do remember there was a harmonic like ping noise when you closed the freaking doors that was I had only experienced on those late 80s 911s. It sort of went away, that was back. And I don't know, it was lack of insulation and the metal just bounced. I don't even know what it was, but it's so cool. In any event,
Yeah, all of those things for sure.
All right, Casey, what would you choose, this or that?
I talked to when Paul put that car up online. I actually reached out to him to see if it was still available the other day when I was
We all
going
did.
through this thing. I love 997 turbos. That was my entry to Porsche, was starting to sell those cars, and I ordered them and we put aero kits on them. And unfortunately, a lot of them ended up being Tiptronics because the Tiptronic was faster to 60 and Porsche said you could brake boost the car and do all these things, but we all know how that ended up in the end. But I'd pick the GT3 for sure. It's a great sense of occasion, and my car's Polar Silver. I love Polar. Actually, my car's about 12 different shades of Polar Silver, but I like Polar Silver a lot, so I go that route, 100%.
All right, Casey, you're up next for this. Dave, you want to go this or that next, or you? I don't want to jam you up for your plane. No, he doesn't want to do it. All right, that's fine. So Casey, this or that, you're next.
Okay, I can't, I'm not smart enough to pull pictures up quickly.
No
But I
problem.
will, so two forbidden fruit for me. And these are Gran Turismo cars that I grew up with. Number one, 1997 Civic EK Type R, the good-looking one that everybody started with first in in Gran Turismo. The example I'm looking at is they're all, of course, right-hand drive. It has 52,000 miles. It's championship white because it has to be championship white. And it sold for $32,000. It was in the United States. And then another car that I've always aspired to own, which is a comparable. I couldn't find a recent sale, so but the last one that I could find was a couple of years ago, but it was peak COVID, so I'm assuming it hasn't gone up or down much since then. Is a 1990 Rally Golf. One of the most dangerous moments I've ever had in my life was a G60 Corrado that got pretty airborne. I was a passenger. Thank you very much. But that would be my pick. So $35,000. Dream for me, I never was an Integra Type R guy. I was always a Civic Type R guy. I just liked the way that it looked a lot better. That was also, if I'm not mistaken, a seam welded car. And also compared to a 1980s box flared Mark II GTI with a synchro system in it and a G60.
Do you guys remember the Mugen?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you guys remember those things
Oh yeah.
based on those
I
box?
had
Yeah,
I had a first gen Integra and I wanted the Mugen kit so bad. And
those cars were so freaking
and
amazing.
and I think I even drove to Jackson Racing, which was in
Yep.
the Valley, and I think they, I mean, as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, they had, like the wing, and it was just ridiculously expensive. Then I tried to buy the LS special parts. I mean, so I just rattle canned my own shit. And that was my so real quick, Casey, the Civic Type R, is that a right-hand drive? Because
Yeah,
it's
they're all right-hand drive.
yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Boy, I mean, I would it would be super easy if it was a left-hand drive, but I'll still take the Civic Type R right-hand drive because I just think I've driven a couple Integra Type Rs and they're just kind of like 996 GT3 specialness to them. That it's where the sum of the parts are greater than what they sound like on paper, and I just think they're really special cars. And I kicked myself for in 2006 and 7 I went on a hunt and I was really and the cars they're selling for 100 grand today, I was debating if it was really worth 12 grand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Dave, between the Volkswagen and the Honda, Honda's two. You don't just put a finger up. What would Dave choose? The Honda or the Volkswagen? Volkswagen's number two. All right, there you go, Volkswagen. All right, I'm with Dave. I go with the Volkswagen because I don't want to have to learn how to drive right-hand drive. That was the decider for me. No good particular reason. What would you have chosen, Casey?
I've always wanted a rally golf. And the one that I'm looking at is this really cool shade of, it's a metallic green. That's the move. I think it's such an awesome car. NGP, which is a Volkswagen tuner, pretty big. They did a whole lot with these. They imported them and did a whole lot in Era and Performance Volkswagen, all that stuff. I'd own one of those things in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, the G60 1.8 motors are really kind of boring, but they did some Volkswagen Motorsport stuff where they put 16 valve supercharged G60 motors in those things. I think it had some sort of weird name to it, but putting one of those motors or a 3.2 liter, like,
Boom,
you
VR6.
know the drill,
Yeah.
VR6 with that great noise, that would be an awesome car.
Yeah, those VR6s have the craziest. What do people call them? The Wookiee or something? I don't remember. But we've got one of those in our Scirocco, and I mean, I'll hardly ever drive that car, but just turning it on, listening to it's, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, VR6s are awesome.
Yeah.
Great engines.
Wasn't the VR6 that same motor essentially the V16 that went into the Veyron? Isn't that essentially a VR16? Am I right about that? I think I'm right about that.
I've only sat in a Veyron once, and it had a check engine light on. That's my only experience of one of those. So I got out of that thing real quick.
Yeah,
I don't know, unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think the the 12 cylinder that they put in those high end Volkswagens. You guys remember those things? Didn't they put one of those in the Touareg? Didn't they put that VR12 in the Touareg?
Was
They
it
had a
W12?
Yeah, W12. That's what I mean.
W12
W.
TDI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are using the right terminology, but I'm pretty sure that W for is the same thing that they put into the Veyrons as a 16, but who knows?
Yeah,
Someone will.
and they put it in the. I mean, I kind of want. Was it the Phaeton? Was that the flop? The
Yeah, the
Volkswagen?
Phaeton.
Yeah,
Wow.
I kind of wanted one of those. I remember my mechanic always described him as the acceleration, like being pushed by the hand of God. I just always loved that. I
Awesome.
did drive one, and they were spectacular cars. But the more you looked at it, you're like, oh, this is a nightmare. This is a parts labor nightmare where the cost of entry is a tenth of the cost of ownership.
That's actually a good topic. What's the nicest car we can get for the least amount of money that we'd never buy because we'd never be able to keep it on the road? I
Yeah.
mean, even if you had the money, you can't get the parts for half of these damn
Yeah,
things.
I mean, it's really my dilemma with that with my Cilia Zuzu is I love that car, but I literally am afraid if anything breaks. It took us 4 months to get a window regulator. I use the turn signal, judiciously because I know there's only so many turn signal movements I've got left in it, and I have no idea. I've already started looking for one because it's this little toggle like on a Gen 2 RX-7. I don't even know where they exist.
You got to
So
just put your
is
hand
that
out
a
the
hag?
window like my Vespa.
Exactly. So is that a Haggerty claimed value type insurance job, or you just put on?
Yeah, we had to total the car because my turn signal stock broke.
That's what I'm asking. All right. So for my this or that, I think I got you guys both beat, by the way. So my two were and Paul, I don't know if it's easy for you to click these in the spreadsheet and put them up as a backdrop picture because I think these two cars, I was kind of shocked that they're the same price. So the first one is a 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 Touring.
I'll work
And
on it. Give me a second, but I
okay,
will work on
and
it.
okay, he'll work on it. And then the other one was a 2004 Lamborghini Murcielago. The Murci was, but here's the reason I picked both these cars. They're both manual. They're both unicorn cars. They're both amazing shades of green. So, and they both sold for essentially the same exact price. And so Paul's going to pull it up.
I am doing it right now. Um, but Honda. Oh, here we go. Lambo and well,
So
here's the Lamborghini. I'll at least have that up right now. The Lamborghini, and then and by the way, Tim, just to let you know, I was almost gonna choose the GT3, but I just knew you were gonna choose because your money, you're gonna choose the big dollar one. Let me see if I could find it, but I just had a feeling that was gonna be your play.
But look at that. Look at that Lamborghini, though. That's a manual transmission. Ah, gosh. And that color is extraordinary. The Porsche was what I think it was British Racing Green. But both of those cars, 400 grand. And
All
I
right.
think personally, that is a real car nerd guy dilemma
So
right
so
there.
They
am
sold
I
they sold a GT3 Touring for 400 grand.
see that was my so Casey, that was exactly my thought when I saw that, and we were talking about earlier, the market being better. Didn't If this was, let's say, GT Silver and it was like 2,500 miles or whatever it was, wouldn't this be a 250, $270,000 car?
Well, here's the
Right?
question. Can't you buy a boring 911R for 400 grand? Or did those go up
No,
to
no, they're
500?
like 600.
Yeah,
I
Like
think
a like a white one with red stripes?
no, I think you start at like I think the least desirable without the special clutch. I think it's like 600. I can't remember exactly, but
Oh,
no, the $400,000 days for a 911 are done. But that being said, I was trying to wrap my head around this. If you look up a 2,700 mile um, GT3 Touring, not even new. It's almost, almost out of warranty, a year left or whatever. Isn't that, didn't someone just pay 100 grand or 120 grand for a $15,000 PTS color? It, I mean, I'm just asking, not even rhetorically. Like, I don't
well,
understand.
it goes back to our conversation about these cars almost becoming like a fashion symbol, like a suit or a expensive pair of Nikes. It's like who can everybody has a GT3 Touring. The GT3 Touring is so aspirational now it's like a Rolex. It's like I've got my Submariner GT3 Touring. But no, I don't but no, I have a what do they call I have a Batman. And the guy's like, "Oh no, I have a Sprite." It's like, come on.
Oh, but by the way, you're right about that because I had a guy about a month ago ask me, did they make a GT3 Touring with a wing? Which just says, like you said, it's just a badge of honor. It's this thing. And I was just thinking like, so, and by the way, so I just pulled up to give you an idea because I didn't look deep into it, but I saw it and I go, oh, Tim's going to pick this. But at the end of June, I don't know if you saw a Fjord Green 22 GT3 Touring. And I think personally, Fjord Green looks bitchin'.
It's a great color.
3,500 miles. It sold for 340,000. Still a lot of money, but we're talking $65,000 less than the green. And then there was a midnight blue touring
So
that
this is the ST effect, in my opinion. That's what's happening to these cars.
No, you're probably right. Like, what is it? All, tide raises all ships.
That's what's going on.
And then here's another touring. It's in midnight blue metallic, which is also a special color, and it has 6,000 miles. It just sold for 282 in June. A 400 mile 23 GT3s touring in like a chalk sold for 277. So this green one blew me around. If you're asking me, which do I choose for this or that, and as much as I love Porsches, I would choose the Murcielago because I think the Murcielago in the long run will be better. I think the GT3 touring color bullshit has just jumped the shark.
Casey, your turn.
Can I put that 400 grand towards that place in Monterey that you talked about? Because I have
the
zero
garage,
interest.
the garage with the Kwanzaa hut.
Like
It was 430 square feet. Keep that in mind, Casey.
The GT3 Touring just bums me out. It really bums me out that it's just. I mean, I love Porsche as a brand, but unfortunately, it just makes me upset that. No, people are complaining about the cost of these cars being so expensive. This is why they're becoming so expensive because people are willing to pay $400,000 for a $240,000 experience.
Yep.
And do you think part of it is just a flex? Because how many times have you seen a car at a Cars and Coffee and it's so identifiable? You're like, oh, yeah, I saw that and bring a trailer. That guy paid that much. Do you think the owner, maybe to some degree, like wearing a Ralph Lauren logo really big on your shirt, wants people to go, oh, he paid all the money for that? Like it's like a status thing? I don't know. I throw up a little bit in my mouth.
You and I must talk to different people, Paul. I think that's what happens.
Well, he's in Southern California. I don't know how much time you spent in South. You probably spent a lot of time in Southern California. The Southern California car culture is as diverse as what he's describing. I'll never forget when Julie and I moved out there part-time and we'd go to the Cars and Coffee, the old Porsche guys who always would show up, it would always line up all their old Porsches in a row, would not freaking have anything to do with the new Porsche guys. And the new Porsche guys sort of had a casual appreciation for the old cars, but those two people did not intermix. I've not experienced that at other car events I've gone on in the rest of the country. I think it's just basically just a Southern California weird thing. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, probably right.
So I picked the Lamborghini just because I think it's so ridiculous that that's a $400,000 car.
But don't you think the Lamborghini for 400,000, a manual transmission, that looks like a freaking bargain?
You ever service a Murcielago? Like the front struts because they all have axle lift like Diablos do. Next time I'll have to do a Diablo back to back next week so that I can comment on how these cars run. Because a Murcielago, I have to bet, and a Diablo are probably rather similar driving experiences. But I looked after briefly a Murcielago, and golly, the service bill just from leaking struts was insane. Oh, the Ford GT that we talked about last week, I forgot to tell you this. I dealt with one that wasn't part of the collection, but one that a client was looking to procure and had a leaky power steering rack. 40 grand for a power steering rack for a new Ford GT.
That thing's probably out of an F-150. Bro should have just checked part numbers.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Casey. I think the big deal is, with that touring, you can't drive it. The odometer is going to be, once again, you're going to be, tethered to that odometer. And the Murcielago in the long run, you're probably not going to drive. And I've driven the Murcielago, a manual. It was, if I closed my eyes, I didn't know what I was in. It wasn't like remarkable. It was like, an offshore boat with a big sloppy manual. I know people love them. I do love Lamborghini. This is like the last Lamborghini I really, really love. But I think in the long run, it will always have more value. Yeah, and that's why you're buying one of these two cars.
I got to believe that touring is that car is so, it must have just been two guys that really wanted it.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the key for bringing trailer casing, you'll know this better than we will, is that you have to end the auction during high alcohol, drinking time. So it's got to be after 5 o'clock,
Right.
probably West Coast, because your East Coasters are going to be full on inebriated, and then you're going to get those high bids, just like a normal auction. I mean, you got to game it. You know,
Yeah. It closed on July 7th. So that
Monday.
was Monday, which is a good time. And it was here, WOB cars. So it was West Coast. And I think it closed at, I don't know, I think it was later in the day. So I think it was probably like 2 o'clock our time. Um, so yeah, you're not wrong.
Yep. All right. I definitely go with the Murcielago. I don't know if Dave wants to play. He looks like he's walking in. He's checking himself in. So he's back at the airport.
Here we are back at the airport.
So
I'm going to be the contrarian here. Contrarian. I just like a green 911 in general. So I think I would be going for the GT3 Touring. I truly don't understand the whole concept of the GT3 Touring as I say that, and meaning if you're going to go, it's apparently for the guy that just doesn't want the wing, which is the, I mean, that's kind of part of the whole reason why you go to these cars is the aero and the track potential for a high end Porsche. But even said all that, I think that car is going to retain value. I think you can drive it a little bit. It's paint to sample. It's a cool color. I go, and I'm just not. I mean, you give me Lamborghini anything, and I'm going to pick the opposite.
what do you really think, Dave? So now what do we know about our friend
I
Dave?
think I hate Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
He hates Lamborghini and he thinks the 997 GT3 RS is a piece of crap. That's what that's what we're learning about.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
Well, I think everyone presented their this or that, right? Am I right? Or Dave didn't, but he's in the airport. Yes. Okay, good. Well, I think any other closing comments for anyone? Anything you guys are looking forward to doing in the next week or so?
No. Yeah. We'll have some fun stuff. I'm going to our group event in Morro Bay. And they're allowing us to drive a non-R group car, so I might take my 996 GT3 because I'm inspired now.
That's cool. Well, on behalf of all of us here at Full Throttle Talk, thank you for listening. And we really appreciate and love all the feedback we've been getting from all of you guys. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And our our Full Throttle Talk Instagram has been restored. Unfortunately, the old posts weren't saved. And thanks for their tip, Paul, but they still didn't restore them for us. But in any event, if you want to send us any questions, any show topic ideas, anything like that, please just message us over on Instagram. Guys, we are intentionally drilling down more than other automotive podcasts on the details. We're not just glazing over a bunch of different topics that we're just casually interested in. We are deeply interested in a few things, and those are the things that we're always going to focus on. And I know a lot of you guys feel the same way. So thank you for listening. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk to you on Full Throttle Talk next week. See you guys. God bless. Have a safe week. Bye.